Allison, are you here?
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
not too bad. I think I just packaged up like the last of the Thanksgiving leftovers for the freezer. I made turkey soup today, so it's just like it's all out of the system now. Thanksgiving is
And now we're
completely.
done with turkey. We're going to something else for a long time.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, we switched to pasta last night. So
Yeah, we had we did Cornish hens, and so I bought two like turkey necks to make gravy out of. And I looked at them after I had like made the stock and roasted them and everything, and I was just like, there's more in this. So and then we just saved all the bones from the Cornish hens, and it was pretty good soup.
yeah, I'm pretty fond of making stock out of bones of things, even just chickens and stuff. I usually make stock.
When we used to do it where it was like every week we would roast a total chicken, and then like every 3 weeks I'd make a big pot of stock. But we went to, I forget whose Thanksgiving it was, but I was like, oh, like what, like do you guys have like a tradition you make soup or stock out of the bones? And like, no. And I was like, can I have 2-gallon Ziploc bags? How's it going, Rob?
How's everyone doing tonight? Everybody have a good turkey day?
Pretty good. Good. Yep. Saw
Yeah,
your
that-
guys driving around with salt today.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the beginning of the end, right? It's the first of the season here. It's actually a lot later than normal, so it's good.
Yeah, a lot of times it snows in October.
Yeah, normally we're out a few more times than we have been this year, so that's good. Let's keep this roll going, maybe.
Yeah, I saw that we are like drastically behind all the other top snow cities. And I was like, that's a good thing.
I will definitely take that, John.
Allie, I want to give you a heads up. We're going to send you the amended version of the commercial zone before you officialize and send it off to the Secretary of State and this, whatever you have to do.
No problem. Is that, I don't have to screen share anything tonight,
No.
right?
No, we're just going to talk about it and we'll send you the final version afterwards, but just make sure you're aware that what's in the agenda is not the thing we're going to pass. So,
Okay. Okay.
if we pass it.
Right. Right. I understand.
Jen, were you able to connect with Ed earlier, or did he said he missed you earlier?
I stopped by his office yesterday and let
Oh.
them know okay, but we never connected. It's fine though, because when like looking at the schedule of how things we kind of want to happen, I think we have enough time before the police committee meeting, and I think at that point we'll be pretty fair. I mean, I'm just trying to get everybody on a Zoom call for like an hour, which
So he sounded okay with it when I talked to him. So
yeah, no, I think everyone's kind of on the same page at this point, and I just want to talk to the mayors and be like, what do you need to change? Because like in general, this proposal is pretty well accepted by people, so we'll see. I don't think Fayetteville is going to have any like real asks because they were like pretty gung ho about updating it. I'm still not 100% sure about Manlius Manoa, but I feel like we'll be pretty close.
yeah, and we can adjust it to make it so everybody's happy.
Allison, you look like you're in a Adirondack lodge.
This is my living room.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. This house was built by the people who owned the local telephone company in Manlius. And we're only the second owners of the house. And this was like put in by like Italian stonesmiths. So it's pretty cool. A little
Very
bit of
nice.
history.
Very cool.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Caitlin.
Did everyone
Hello.
have a nice Thanksgiving?
Are you having hot chocolate, Allison?
I am not. No,
You
just
need.
water.
Yes, did you have a nice Thanksgiving, Caitlin?
I did. It was super, super small,
Yeah.
but I really enjoyed it. It was really nice. Nice and quiet and calm. And my parents normally have 45 people over.
Oh my God.
20 of them are under the age of 12. It's insanity. So my parents were miserable. I was thrilled. I thought it was so relaxing.
Good.
Different times.
Yeah. But next year, my sister's due in January. She has 2 kids in January. She's due to have twins. She's having twin girls.
Oh,
So my dad said that if everyone came in this, like the same year, if every single person came, we'd have 50 people. I don't know where we're going to put everybody.
you can't do that.
That's what I said. I'm like, you have to rent a tent, make all the kids go out there. Then I'll come.
Mhm.
I know people that had Thanksgiving dinner in their garage with heaters on,
Oh yeah.
just so they can space
Mhm.
Yeah.
more than usual.
Well, that's why we all figured out how to eat outdoors. So just put all the children under the age of 10 in a tent in the backyard. It's fine.
Well, the Pilgrims did. They managed.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear
I
me?
feel
All
like
right?
we're missing a bunch of people. Well, Randy can't be here.
All right, Randy will make it. Excuse me. Let's see. Sarah's here, John 2, 3, 4,
7.
6,
We got
7.
7.
Ward's here. Doug, we're waiting on. Doug, right? You're not there. That's Chief.
Hi, Chief.
We don't have any
Okay.
public hearings to go into tonight, do we?
It's
We have a
6:30.
continuation of a public hearing.
Continuation. We have, what, 2 of them, right? The commercial and the noise ordinance.
It's 6:30. Did you want me to start the process of going live?
Yeah, let's do it. Everybody ready? I mean, Doug will be here, I'm sure. Remember the gavel this time. I used my glass, my glass container last time. I see her live. I'm waiting for Allison's thumbs up. There we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Town of Manlius virtual board meeting. Let's begin by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Why don't we begin by introductions. I'll start out at Theobald, Town of Manlius Supervisor.
Sarah Bollinger, Town Manlius Counselor.
John Deere, Town Councilor.
Elaine Denton, Town Councilor.
Karen Green, Deputy Supervisor.
Caitlin Creasel, Town Councilor.
Heather Waters, Town Councilor.
And also with us tonight are other town officials. Mike Kroll, Chief Police. We have our Highway Superintendent, Rod Cushing. Town Attorney, Tim Ferteski. Town Engineer, Doug Miller. Oh, Jamie's here. And also Town Attorney, Jamie Suffolkin. I just saw you, Jamie. And Town Manager, Ann Oot. And Town Clerk, Allison Weber. And our Director of Code Enforcement Officer, Randy Capriati, couldn't join us this evening. So with that, we'll move on to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes of November 18th, 2020.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion. Approval of the minutes from November 18th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Very good. And item 4 is we need the abstract number 23 approval.
Mr. Supervisor, I move abstract number 23 in the amount of $311,277.64.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Now we will move on to item 5, which if we'll hold on one second, I just have to grab one thing. I just printed it, but I forgot to get it from the printer. So those things happen. So let's, Sarah, I'm going to hand this off to you since you've been working diligently on this with the Planning Process Committee. If you would like to discuss where we are with it and what our decisions will be this evening.
Thank you. So this is the end of a long open public hearing. I'd like to first inquire if there's any guests here that are here for the public hearing on the zoning so that we let them speak before we move on, before we close the hearing.
Oh, we see it, something down here.
So if you have anything that you want to say about please put it in the chat, in the Q&A. And I don't believe these people are, I don't believe these questions are related to this
Right,
topic.
that's towards that's regarding the noise ordinance.
Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
We need a second.
We need a second.
Oh, I thought.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You were the second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, she's second. Yep, so.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It was a so moved through a soft all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Very good. All right.
Now what we found that the version of the law that is on the agenda, there's a couple of tweaks that we would like to make to it. So we'd like to make a few amendments to that. And I have one amendment in the law itself, and then there will be several amendments in Exhibit A.
Yep.
So first, for the one in the law, I'd like to move an amendment that would strike a phrase that is in the current the local law 2020-10 On the first page at the bottom, it says, whereas a local law has been introduced before the board, to wit, local zoning law 2020-10, modifying chapter 155 of the town of Manlius zoning code, period, and remove the rest of that sentence.
All right, do we need to do these individually then? Is that what we're saying?
But the other one we can do together, but this is the only one in this document, so I thought it should be a standalone.
Okay, so we need, that's a motion you made then?
I-
Okay, do I have a second?
Just a question
Oh,
first.
yeah, that was my next question, if anybody had questions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Elaine. Yeah.
Well, my question was just because it's also in the title. Does
Oh.
does that get changed as well in
Yes,
this amendment?
thank you for saying that. Okay, so it'll be changed in both places?
Yep, good catch, Elaine. Okay, now we need a second, I think, unless,
System is you make a first, you make a second, and then this discussion ensues.
right, and I'm waiting for someone to make a second.
So Elaine, is that you?
Sure, I'll make the second.
All right, and now is there any further discussion on this topic, on this amendment? Okay, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried, okay.
Okay,
Next,
now, on Exhibit A, we also have some amendments. And Elaine is going to share some of those with you.
Okay, so some of these are pretty, it's just changing out some language, making sure the language we're using in the definitions is the language using in the code, and a couple just errors that we wanted to fix. So do I just list them?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we would need to remove warehouse and pet care services from CAC number 3. Is that good? We need to remove warehouses and pet services from RSC3. We need to remove CAC 12.
Yep.
And then we need to change the CA letter D to list. We're just, again, it's just updating that language to make sure the definitions match. So it's number 1, commercial storage, 2, pet care services, 3, landing fields, 4, landscape business, 5, recreation vehicle sales, 6, used vehicle sales, 7, vehicle repair, and 8, vehicle dealerships. In commercial B, D, number 4, we just need to change landscaping sales to landscaping business. Again, it's just the language,
right,
in that consistent language. And then that's the same in CBC 12, the vehicle businesses, again, just making sure we're using vehicle dealership, outdoor, make sure that's the same, used vehicle sales, and then, sorry, the same change in industrial C number 11, which is again, vehicle businesses, making sure they're defined using that same language, vehicle dealerships, used vehicle sales. And that's all I have. I know Sarah has a couple.
Yeah. So in addition, so that's the motion. She made the motion to amend, and I'm extending it to add under the industrial district's heading, purpose, and intent. This zoning classification is intended to include most of the uses permitted in commercial B, subject to some additional restrictions, and to add some additional permitted uses. So that sentence is modified slightly. In the industrial zone, we moved heavy manufacturing out of permitted and into permitted with a special use permit, which matches the current law. And finally, on all of them, there's a section where the phrase was where there was a blank reference, and the article number that is now in there is Article 6, Section 157-27. It's under permitted special permit uses in all the codes. So when you read that, you probably noticed the blank. So that's what we would fill in the blank with. So I would close that amendment unless somebody else has another thing to add that you found, and ask for a second.
very good. Yep, we had the first. Do we have a second?
I just wanted to, on the discussion portion, mention that it sounded like a lot of things that Elaine was saying really, they're kind of kitschy little things. It's not that much. Elaine was extremely meticulous about matching the languages, and it's very much appreciated. The other thing, and that Sarah and Elaine particularly spent a lot of time on, was looking at the other code and making sure that we weren't overly expanding a use in an area that it wasn't before. For example, warehouse inadvertently ended up in CA after so many iterations of this. And you hear just now that Elaine, we took it out because it's not there now. So for the most part, what you're seeing is in the whole code, it's better organized. And with respect to these amendments specifically, it was a comparison, a word by word, line by line comparison with the other code, make sure that the uses were consistent with what was there before, and a couple of language things like using vehicle, how we were very meticulous about how we defined vehicle uses. And then all of a sudden we said car dealership. Well, you got to take that out and make it right. So that's the type of change that's in there. And it has a lot to do with the meticulousness that this was reviewed mainly by Sarah and Elaine.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jamie. I know we had Elaine, you made the motion for all these amendments, right? Okay, and we needed a second, then we can open it up for further discussion if we need to do that on the amendments.
Mr. Supervisor, my records indicate that in fact was, but there was additional amendments by Sarah. So I just want to make clarification on the motions themselves, if anybody can do that.
So the motion is to accept the list of amendments that Elaine and I put forth in Exhibit A
Together.
together.
Yes. And Elaine,
I'd be happy to second that.
oh, there we go. Any further discussion now?
And for the purposes of your notes, Ellison, we have them written down and we'll give them to you. So
Thank you.
That's what I went to get at the copier. That's right.
Yeah, I said that's a lot.
Very good. All in favor?
Okay.
Opposed and carried. All right, now we can wrap up the local law itself. Is that correct? All right.
Yes.
And so we need a motion on
So
the,
now I would like to make a motion on behalf of the long-serving planning process committee to introduce local law 2010, which with its Exhibit A and Exhibit B and so I move that we pass that law
As amended.
as amended.
Before anyone motions anything, may I just say that I just want to give credit where credit is due in terms of being diligent and persistent over long periods of time on this project. Thank you very, very, very much. And Elaine, thank you for coming in with Jamie to kind of complete this and make sure that it was really an initiative that sort of had legs to move forward into the comprehensive planning process. We really looked at this and said, okay, how are we doing this planning with our new view towards looking at and reviewing the code going forward? So thank you so very much, everybody.
Thank you, Heather.
any other, well, we haven't had a second. Did we have a second? I don't think we did.
Just on the discussion portion, Randy's not here tonight, but I think it's important to note that he was intimately involved in this process, and it's very specific items that were referred to him, because he's the first line of defense. And I'm sorry he's not here tonight, but we really appreciate him.
That's good to know, Jamie. Thank you.
I'll second.
Very good, John. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. And I would just like to add, just from what Heather said and Jamie and the work that you all, the whole planning process committee's been doing the last 2 years. It's tremendous that you were able to put all this together and come up with a tremendous improvement on the explanation of this particular commercial zoning. So thank you very much, everyone.
So I would like to just wrap up with adding that the chart is no longer part of the law, but it does exist.
Yep.
As a handy reference for any developers that would like to access that. We can make that available to them.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. And that's, I'm glad you pointed that out. All right. And so we'll move on to the second.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
All right, Jamie.
Thank you.
Bye, Jamie.
Thank
Hang
you.
out a little longer if you want. Item 6 is the, again, the continuation of the public hearing for the local noise control ordinance amendment and so on, which we're all familiar with. We'll address this the same as we did the last. Allison, I think we do have one comment that we saw in the question Q&A that you might want to share with everyone.
Yes. Hang on. Okay. Charles Ledoux says, it seems that there is an isolated issue within the village of Fayetteville at a boundary with the town of Manlius, an isolated situation that is triggering a change to the entire township. Why is the town compelled to adopt a new noise ordinance and with reference to the current town of DeWitt's? The town of DeWitt is highly industrialized in comparison to Manlius. More than half of the Manlius Township, northern and eastern portions, is comprised of rural, undeveloped land. Has the board considered how the new ordinance will impact the past and current practices we have come to enjoy in these residential areas? I am not in support of the change. I would like to see more community notification and public discussion. I feel that the great majority of the township was unaware this ordinance was under review and possibly being revised.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, addressing the last part of that, absolutely. We're looking at bringing in some help with communications. It's something that I've heard quite a bit this year. That legal notice and maybe some presence on Facebook isn't enough, and I completely agree with that. And so when doing the research for this modification, because again, this is not a new law. This is simply taking a law that exists, that has existed, and making it a better version of itself so that it is enforceable. The incident in question here, I was there, talking to some residents, and I spoke with the police there, and they were very clear that the law wasn't equipped to enforce anything at the time. And so they even said that your next step is at the town board. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't think of this as, or I don't think any of my colleagues do either. This isn't a massive sweeping change. What we did was we took something that was completely objective and there was really no strict way to enforce it, and we made it enforceable. So, just to that point, and absolutely, when we were doing the research for this, we looked into how everyone else does this, whether it's a rural town, a city, and everything in between. We worked with some of our great partners to figure something out that made sense. And technically speaking, the reason that this shouldn't be a major change in the more rural areas of the town is that decibels drop off over distance. So if you make a noise and it's this many decibels and you walk twice as far away, it is significantly fewer decibels. And so even just outside of the more residential areas where it's more rural, you tend to have larger plots. And so you're going to have less issues because you're measuring at the property line. Also, one thing that I think came up in the conversation last time is that this law is there so that it can be enforced. If you speak to your neighbors and say, hey, I'm going to be making noise within reason, but just want to let you know, and they say no problem. If they're not going to call the police and ask for the noise ordinance to be enforced, then nothing really changes, just like the law we have currently. I would argue that if someone looked at the previous law and wanted it enforced, the new law would change absolutely nothing other than allowing it to be enforced. So really, it's either make the law better or repeal the whole thing. And we've had this law in the books for quite a while, and we've never really had issues, except for this instance, when it's very easy to have a process or a law or a rule that never comes up until it does. And then when it does, we realize, just like with the way we've modernized our technology, to bring our meetings onto Zoom, to keep up to date with the kind of the world as it's moving, we're simply modernizing this law so that it's a little bit more enforceable. And also too, it takes benefit of the fact that most people will be able to measure the decibels on a non-official device and determine for themselves whether or not they want to get the police involved. If you're at your property line and if you're not able to read it over the decibel level, you shouldn't call the police. And we had that conversation last time, but I really do appreciate the feedback. And, all of that was considered pretty strongly in this. And with the reference to DeWitt, I think, we often look at DeWitt as kind of, a fairly similar in some ways, but I appreciate the stark difference our two towns have. But what I will say is that the changes that we have proposed, which are just the enforcement and a couple of exemptions really, those all come from national standards for noise ordinances. There's massive groups that, believe in the fact that noise pollution is pollution. It affects people's quality of life. I think we had someone last time talk about how noises that are loud and intermittent can actually affect your mental health, can affect children's development. And so this is not, this really isn't a drastic change to the law. It's just to make it so that it's clean and clear and enforceable.
Thank you, John. You might have answered a lot more questions that haven't been asked yet too right now, but that's good. And I don't think there's any other Q&As that I see, Allison.
The only other thing would be if anybody who's attending wants to speak, you can use the raise hand function.
Right.
Or you can use the Q&A function, which works very well.
Yeah, as a reminder, that's a good point.
But so, while we're leaving this open to see if there's any more comments, next steps on this are, we're going to work with the villages to make sure that this makes sense. We're going to work with the chief to make sure, as written, it is enforceable in a meaningful way. I'm hoping to reach out to DeWitt and talk to them. How often do you enforce this law? Does it ever come up as an issue? If it's ever come to court, was there an issue that a fix to the law could have, removed the issue for? So, this public hearing was intended to get, take the temperature and get as much feedback as possible. And I feel like we've done a pretty successful job of that. And now we're still going to tinker with it. We want to make sure that if we're going to change a law that's been on the books, we're not going to just do it willy-nilly. And, we're going to be really thoughtful and intentional about it.
Well, you make a good point, John. The intention is we're not done reviewing this and discussing it with the villages, as John mentioned, and a little further discussion with law enforcement. So we're not making any snap decisions this evening, or at all for that matter. So I want everyone to be aware of that. It's going to be a while before we finalize our decision on this. So, I do see a Q&A. Someone has something here.
Yes, it was a request from the resident that the public commenters identify whether or not they live in the town of Manlius.
Oh, yeah. The last one person who commented, I know he called me earlier today, and I said best way to do it is get on here, and that's Charles Ledoux, and he lives at 7497 Collimer Road. So just so you know, for the record, you have his address.
Yeah. Thank you for the input, Charles. We appreciate it.
And I don't know who just commented and where he's from.
I'm sorry, that was Peter and I want to say Boone Figlio.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, we've heard from them. So,
seeing that I don't think there's any other comments, I'd be happy to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
And I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. John, why don't, as I pointed out, we're going to continue this, but if you have anything else you'd like to add just before we move on, you're
absolutely. Yeah. I just think, because the public hearing's closed, do not, please continue to reach out. Let us know. We don't want to pass something that, the majority of people aren't happy with. So please continue to send in your comments through the website, straight to our emails. And quite honestly, if you just want to talk about it, feel free to give us a call.
Very good. Thank you. All right. And next we move on to our highway superintendent, item 7 here, which is Rob Cushing. You're going to address the water main extension on Kimball Road, which you all have the permit that was, I think we all received that. Rob, you want to address that?
Yep. Actually, I think this was just kind of a little mix up in paperwork here. I think this is in conjunction with about 2 board meetings ago with the hydrant that was actually being put up on Kimball Road. So this is the 800 feet of extension of the water line to that hydrant. So basically, this is just a permit issued by the town, which will need a motion for your signature. I've already signed it, to allow them to work within the right of way. So it's kind of a easy deal to do tonight. So.
Yeah, you and I spoke about this, and this is unusual that they did it in this order, that they didn't combine it, I guess.
Yeah, usually it's a combination. I don't know how it got screwed up, but these things happen, I guess. So we would just want to make sure that we're on the legal side, and that I know the resident who was looking forward to this wanted to get the process moving. So this is what we're doing here tonight. So.
Someone made a motion?
So I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'll make a motion to extend the water line as described.
And I'll second it to permit the supervisor to sign the permit.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and carried. Very good. Thank you, Rob.
And I got one more quick thing, if I could.
Okay, go ahead.
I've actually, I know it's getting to the end of the year here, and we're getting pushed for time a little bit. But I've got a couple of pieces of equipment we'd like to try and get rid of by auction. One of them is a cabin chassis, 10-wheeler cabin chassis, that is going to actually have a plow and wing, but it's not going to have a dump body or a sander with it because we reused that on a new truck. So instead of having it just sit out back all winter long, we're going to try and see if we can auction that off. Also, I've got an air compressor and some miscellaneous tools that we're going to try and get rid of, along with some of the police vehicles, the old police vehicles that have been out alongside the building. I'm not sure how many of those I'm going to be able to get done with this auction. We're still going to have to work with Ann a little bit on getting this together, and obviously for time, I wanted to ask the board if we could go ahead and put an auction together here. I'll try to get a list this week and get it out to everyone of the stuff there. But the main things is what I've kind of talked about here tonight. So I'd like to see if we can access the surplus equipment here, get rid of it.
So I'll make a motion to authorize preparation of an auction packet for the highway department.
And that would, of course, include any additional items that you come up with in the interim, right, Rob?
Yeah, I'll get you guys a list. Again, it was just kind of, we were going to do it actually last month, but it's just gotten weather-wise, you know what I mean? It's got changed around here a little bit what we're doing. In the truck that we're actually putting together still had the box on it 2 weeks ago. So we would kind of push to try and get it to go here. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we can get this auction done and over with. So.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
I had a question. I think this is our first time doing this. So we have to make we have to give you approval to do an auction package?
No, what you're really doing is you're declaring the items as surplus surplus.
Okay.
Is that the word? Is that the word I'm looking for? Surplus property.
Yes, we'll run with that, Tim.
Yes, it's surplus property, therefore it can be auctioned off.
Right.
The
Okay,
town,
and
the
so
town
then-
doesn't have a use for that property.
And then next time he'll bring us a list and then we sign it
Yeah.
all off, or is it?
Elaine, how it works when we do go to the auction, it's Auctions International is who we've used in the past. They do tons of municipal auction stuff. What we'll do is we'll get bids on all the equipment that we've got up, and I'll try and get a list together here for you. I'm sorry I was unprepared for
That's
that
okay.
tonight, but we will get you a list. We'll put the stuff up for auctions, usually a 1 week, sometimes 2 week auction, depending on what's going on with the auction cycle. But hopefully we're going to try and do a 1 week auction if we can. And we can accept any and all bids on the equipment. And certainly I'll give you my opinion on whether, we're making the right decisions on what we're selling. So it seems to work in the past. And again, I'll walk you through it as much as I possibly can.
Thank you.
But Robert, you've already mentioned the list of items.
Yeah, I've got the three things. The main things that we're gonna get rid of here is that it's a 2010 Paystar cabin chassis with a plow and wing, and then the air compressor with some miscellaneous tools, and a couple of the surplus police cars that we've had alongside of our building for the last year or so. So, but again, it's just getting the titles to all of those, and time restraint. We may not be able to get rid of all of those. So we'll do a spring auction again, on those if we have to.
So we'll focus on those items at this point.
What's that, Ed?
We'll just focus on those items
Yep.
of surplus at this point then.
Yep,
Okay.
and again, I'll get the list out tomorrow, hopefully to all the boards here. I'll have Allison kind of send it out to everyone, so everyone has any ideas. If there's any questions, certainly get a hold of me, let me know.
All right, very good.
So Sarah, just amend your motion to declare it surplus property and whatever else you said.
So to declare these items as surplus and prepare an auction packet for them. And just to clarify, we don't have to accept the auction price. So if it doesn't go well because it's too late in the year, we'll just auction it another day.
Correct.
Right.
Do we have
A second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Okay.
Aye.
Good luck, Rob.
Carried.
Thanks, Karen.
Very good. Thank you, Rob. Anything else?
Thanks, Ed. No, all set, thank you.
Now I know Randy couldn't be here this evening. Doug, is there anything that you need to address on behalf of him or yourself?
I don't think so. If you've noticed, the construction has started on the dental office.
Yes.
So that seems to be going smoothly. We signed off on the notice of intent for the stormwater. Believe it or not, some of the activity is picking up at the planning board level. We've got 4 or 5 projects that will probably be on the agenda for next week's meeting.
Good.
I think Randy and Mike and the gang are keeping pretty busy on those activities too. So we're in good shape.
Okay. Tim, do you have anything for us?
I don't have anything specific. I think Elaine's going to speak to an issue that I sent everybody out earlier today. So I'll leave that up to Elaine.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Very good. Allison? No, that's like 3 meetings in a row, I think, isn't it?
There's stuff happening, but nothing I need to report. So.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Chief, what do you have for us this evening?
No report tonight, Mr. Supervisor.
Must be getting close to the holidays here, right? I guess. All right, Ann, town manager? No. Oh, my goodness. All right, and we'll go with the town board. We can start with Heather tonight, if you have anything.
Sure. Just want to remind everyone that we're concluding our 3rd listening session for the Comprehensive Planning Committee, and anyone else who would like to join. This Sunday, we're doing Our History, featuring our town historian, Barbara Rivette, and also a very special Girl Scout, young friend, one of 2 sisters in the community, a young woman named Amelia Whips. And we are going to, Sarah Bollinger and I will be there, and we're going to make sure that we cover the history of Manoa, Fayetteville, and Manlius, and the larger town of Manlius. And it will be from 3 to 4 o'clock, probably not longer than that, based on my conversation with Barbara today. And we will be broadcasting it to the Facebook page. And it will be boxcast because we'll be taking social distance measures and be in the town hall. So that's the news.
That's great. Very good. Thank you. John, do you have anything for us tonight?
The only update I had is I worked with Garam, specifically Justin, and we had another company come in and look at our boardroom and give us a quote. I will say being able to say exactly what our budget is for those improvements was helpful. We got a pretty good idea. I'm hoping to see that quote shortly, and then I'll forward that out to everybody, and we can, I'll be happy to walk everybody through what's going on. But it looks like whenever we are, able to get back in that boardroom, we will be able to have a similar experience to Zoom, where you can hear everybody. The current, solution with Boxcast is good, but big priority to make sure that we're not losing anything when the town board finally moves back into the room, and people can feel like they're sitting right in the audience.
Right, that's great. I hope it works out for us here. It'd be nice to get back together again, you know. So, all right, Elaine.
Thank you. I just have, so I attended the Critical Response Committee last night, especially with Councilor Green and the supervisor at Theobald. Oh, and of course was there. Everybody was there. Anyway, so I attended that, and it was really great. We heard from the Onondaga Health Commissioner, Dr. Gupta, and they're really making sure that everyone has the information they need on the county health department's website. And they update it regularly, and we have a link to their website on our town website as well. So I encourage everyone to look at all the information that they provide, to keep social distancing and to wear your masks. And then the other thing I have is just we are hearing more from our residents about chickens and goats. And as the pandemic continues, I am sure we all know how much our pets give us comfort and so much more. So I'll be working with Tim and I believe Randy and anyone else who is interested to look at our code to see how we can make it clear on what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I hope to have an update on this in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure how long it will take us, but is there any counselors or anybody else who is interested in working on the chicken code with me?
Yeah, Elaine, I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Okay, great. So I'll be doing some research on different municipalities and what they do, and we will be, we'll set up a meeting. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Are we good?
That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Caitlin, what do you have for us tonight?
Elaine, do you think that that's something that might make sense for a sustainable Manlius to kind of, not that we need to like open it up to the whole committee, but do you think that that would be considered a sustainability topic?
I don't know.
We should talk about it because it might be. I mean, like if you have your own little mini farm and you're producing your own food in that way. I think that there's some elements that might be interesting. We should see if there's any climate smart communities action that we can do about goats. So tomorrow is the first Thursday of the month. So at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, we've got Sustainable Manlius's next meeting. And the Climate Smart Communities program is moving forward. We have a recent graduate from FM. His name is Ryan, and he's the community chair of Climate Smart Communities, and he's been doing really a great job. I keep getting very overwhelmed and brought it to some of my colleagues earlier this week that it's just so detail heavy. And if you haven't had the chance yet to look through the actions that the town would need to do to move forward and to actually get bronze certification. And by the way, we'd be the first in Onondaga County to do so. Tons of communities, dozens have taken the pledge, but none have actually become certified. So there's 5 or 6 in Madison County, but we'd be the first in Onondaga County, and it would open up a lot of money, a lot of grants for us to do a lot of different work in the town. So it'd be cool if we could get it done, but Ryan's been great. And we had a couple meetings as the week went on to plan for tomorrow. And so I'm hopeful that we can keep the progress going and that we can come up with a really good strategy to do this for the community. So I will be sending out a doodle poll to Anne and Doug. So stay tuned. You'll be invited to meet with Allison and Ryan and I, along with Amanda Mazzoni from the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board to really dig into this. We're going to need a lot of data from the two of you. And rather than going to you individually over and over and over again, we thought it might be better if we all kind of got on the same page about which actions we're going to do, what information you have easy access to, which actions would be so much work that it's really not practical right now. So I'll be sending out that poll tomorrow so we can find a time, hopefully next week, to get together. And other than that, I've just been living off of pumpkin pie for a week and a half.
Join the group. Very good. Thank you, Caitlin. Sarah, you're up.
Hi, thank you. A couple of things. The Salt Springs Water District public hearing or public meet, sorry, it wasn't, but public access website, because we didn't have a meeting. The comment period closed Monday, November 30th. We got a lot of comments, which we have until next week to process and revise, and they will be posted. So there'll be a lengthy Q&A, sort of a response to the questions that people asked on that. It will be on that same website, available to individuals who may or may not be in the Salt Springs Water District. The lines, one of the purposes of this process was to define the lines around the district. So that is part of what this process is. The other thing I want to say is that we will be needing to go into executive session to discuss some letters of interest with regard to comprehensive planning. And I also just wanted to say, given the time of year, I wanted to remind everybody that we have Meals on Wheels of Eastern Onondaga County, FM Food Pantry, and Heaven's Pantry. If you have an opportunity to share your benefits with those that are less fortunate, this would be a great time to do that.
Thank you, Sarah. Karen, you're up next.
Yes, Elaine had already mentioned about the CRC meeting, but I just want to extend a thank you to Captain Schaefer for organizing this meeting. There were so many attendees there. The ambulance, the fire departments, the town of DeWitt, police, Onondaga County Emergency Management. It's just a great, great program, and he does a wonderful job. And he was able to capture a few minutes with Dr. Gupta, who, you know, in a very relaxed manner, she said a lot, that we are up over 200 cases a day. And, you know, you can certainly enjoy a dinner out or shopping, but she stressed that we all have to be their partners to get a handle on this. And as Elaine said, you know, the masks, the hand washing, and but Captain Schaefer mentioned, you know, our Cyros officers are safe, and there is, the chief knows all the protocols in place. And again, Dr. Gupta couldn't stress enough about keeping the workplaces very, very safe. So it was an excellent program, and Captain Schaefer does a great job. And then Sergeant Snyder, of course, has been working on the emergency manual that goes out every year and to the municipalities. And he's looking forward to having that updated by the end of the year as well. And so we're grateful that we have that opportunity to meet with the commissioner. And then the Manlius Historical Society Festival of Miniature Trees. This is an event that has been going on in Manlius for over 25 years. And I have been fortunate enough to be on that board and the liaison for the town. And we talked about how we were going to get it done this year. And none of us were willing to cancel it. So we're going ahead. We have gone ahead. The community has been very gracious supporting this, the organizations, businesses. There are over 25 of the most beautiful and creative trees at the resort lifestyle community. This is our third year there. They have been hosting. They are thrilled. However, unfortunately, there is no preview party tomorrow night, Mr. Supervisor. We always look forward to getting you and the mayors together at that. But all the bidding is going to be online this year. And it will be on the Manlius Historical Society's Facebook page. It will start after 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and go until next Friday. You certainly can go into the resort lifestyle to see the trees. However, again, precautions are underway with temperature taking and masks and social distancing. But I hope you do get a chance to go and see the trees on, at least online. They are absolutely spectacular. So thank you for all that participated. I know, Sarah, you have a tree there, and Elaine, I know there's one waiting for your husband.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, that, you know, the mayors and I, we've always been there to serve the punch and what have you. And
To pour.
yeah, right. Like many events this year, normally Fayetteville has their tree lighting, I think the day after Thanksgiving, and Manoa and Manlius are usually next Sunday. And, you know, I always try to hit all of them. And those are the type of things we're going to miss until we get COVID under control, which just to dovetail on what Elaine and you said, Karen, regarding Dr. Gupta, she was refreshing, and just to listen to some of the things that she enlightened us on. There was some questions on the vaccine. She feels very positive, and she told us to quit watching the news on TV. Just pay attention to what she says. And but it sounds like even if in the spring, mid to late spring, that everyone would have this vaccine. She goes, we still, as you mentioned, need to partner up. We need to continue municipal partners, school districts. Again, there was representation from the school that we, even after we have the vaccine and we take advantage of it, we need to maintain, be vigilant with continuing ourselves to fight the COVID, still continue wearing masks and social distancing, even after that. She goes, you know, we have a tendency to, oh, okay, we're free to go, you know, and we really have to be careful even during these times so that we can move on to have our normal lives again. So it was a tremendous meeting last night, and the captain just said, what a crowd. He hadn't been, and I hadn't been to one in a while either, you know, so, but they did a great job with that. Thank you for attending that, you and Elaine and Ann as well. So
Supervisor, do you know if that was recorded and that can it be viewed subsequently, or was it?
I don't think it was recorded, Caitlin. I was checking it out. I mean, we have minutes on it, but I can check with the chief or with the captain and find out if he did or not. Okay.
Yeah, if it's recorded and there's a link, if you could circulate that, because I could use some reassurance myself. So.
Yeah. All right. I'll see what we can do on that for you. Okay. And with that, that's all I have. So if anyone wanted to make a motion to go into the executive session.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, and that's for the review of the.
For the review of the.
Before we do, can I just ask, Sarah, do we want to mention also the request for letters about the communications opportunity too, and that it's still.
Sure, if you want to say that that's still open.
Yeah, we also still have an opportunity, and we're requesting letters of interest for the communications work that we're looking to take on. So that information is on our website, and it's been extended just to make sure that we reached many folks. One of the things that we had in there previously was that we're going to have to work to build in sustainable funding for the position, but that's our intention. So in case it made anybody nervous about applying, we want to make sure that you are not nervous about that, and that it's of great interest to us. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Do we have a second to go into executive session?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. All right, so now we need to mute, and then we stop the video. Is that how we do it?
Yeah, we'll mute and stop the video. Allison, it's.
Oh,
yeah.
22.
It's to discuss the appointment, employment of or of a particular person or corporation. That's why we're going into executive.
Right. Thank you, Tim.
Okay.
I was going to clarify, but then I didn't know if I needed to.
Okay, so yes, we'll turn all these off and we'll go on the phone.
It's like we never left.
And we're back.
Waiting for Karen and Ann. Thank you, Tim, by the way, for the correspondence. So we could do that.
So we don't need to make any motions at this point. We're just gonna make a motion to end our board meeting essentially.
Yeah, I would say that I pretty much wrapped it up with my last statement and we just finished the executive session. So we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed and carried. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good
night,
night,
everyone.
everyone.
Good meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.